It, raw and sticky, is never allowed the pleasure of upsleeving the joyful burden of being humbly introduced, generously discussed, violently debated, blissfully appreciated, or shamelessly honored. The catastrophic parts, starving and asunder, as they revolve around the concrete parts, as they collapse and reconcile with the beastly parts, as they exhale and float carefree on the local lake, aflame and quiet, engraved with the sunset ripple, experience only the most timid of canyons, narrow and oblique, on the path home. But the everyday pressure of the near boil, thorny and relentless, persists interstrapped on all sides, glued to the skin, welded to the bone, with only the clock to sip on and the blood to stare at. Where are the words hiding when they are most required? Where are the words hiding when they are most required? Where are the words hiding when they are most required? An old friend, confused and bitter-minded, will endlessly wonder. What of the therapeutic bravery and the rip-sanitizing ancient grip and the anchored remains, irrelevant and trashed, hulking overhead and underfoot? The words are not hiding, they are hibernating inside the liquid, marmaladian and unhurried, soon born a stable solid. And the scaffold is there. It is very clearly there, truth very prominent, impossible to disregard, even as the slow death of rebirth slams into the wires, fractured and numb, of union caliber working memory and scent gland use permits, and the connections wobble. The hardware rusts, the utility declines. But so is the compulsion for narrative control from the backpack of rocks sewn to shoulders, carrying the pain, torturous and breathtaking, of never choosing whether or not to be born, and therefore never choosing whether or not to perish. So we bend toward the change, transformative and clumsy, targeting the language at a straw-stuffed gamble on a future anxiety-stone and unfalsifiable, while dangling the only consciousness remaining out into the breeze, polar and contractual, of a pointlessly speculative winter morning. And how allergic are we to the ideas, to the thoughts, arid and elemental, endlessly in competition with the posture and the grinning and the affirmations, pulsing and unsuccessful, but still bashful in the flower skin of their summery wake. Metabolizing the hours, wrinkled and creamy, with the dark craft of the in-between, with the lawlessness of grief collapsing, we chronically disappear and reappear, are and then are not, and then are again. And we do this, reel this, projectify like this, repetitively, until the boiling is reduced to a simmer, glassy and impotent, the asteroid's pulverizing mass, now more a worry stone, pocketable and benign, careening softly underneath the minute hand's shadow. And, lies and exaggerations aside, in the same way that we encourage the idea that it is acceptable to intellectually pronounce corruption in a manner ego-laconic and seductive that suggests reinvention, we also encourage the idea that it is acceptable to browse the fiction section of a library of time dilations and rig their questions, inevitable and morose, to the rafters of our philosophical nursery. Will it happen sooner than we imagine it will? Absolutely, yes. It, demon-rinsed and tepid, will happen sooner than we imagine it will. The alarm will sound. The wave will crest. The arrowhead will penetrate, and the story will end. When the small in the spine and the not big enoughness break bread at the table, planked and circular, of the everyday spectacle, and the discussion restarts about what it means to exist like this, to simultaneously inhabit the was and the am and the will be, this is when it will happen. And it can be hated, loved, laughed at or with or near, belittled, ignored, celebrated, merited, elected, or imprisoned or exiled, despised, gazed at or on or through. It does not matter and it does not care. It is already extinct, morphed, its real surface invisible, its real construction altered, its real purpose litigated. As if we have been awakened from a dream, or a dream has been awakened from us. Everything we observe is in the past. It already existed. It already evolved. It already moved on. We fundamentally exist, paradigm dumb and accepting, grounded, buried really, in this quantum mechanical fact. Can you not see it? Asks the neighbor's youngest child, sure-eyed and thoughtful, pausing on their walk to the ice cream truck, coins colliding in their tiny hands. But you cannot, and even though you will try, knowing you cannot, you also know that it, the proposal of it, untenable and gory, has a name, and its name is also your name. There is a predator staring directly at the epicenter of the between, and that predator is you. The logic of convenience, the eminent domain of metaphoric boundaries, prideful and self-inflicted, oozes toward magnetic north as the predator now becomes the docent. And the question of what is the ultimate purpose of any question, the meaning of meaning itself, the miracle of grace in not knowing whether time is the pathway upon which we walk, or we or the tunnel through which time passes. There it goes, so it went, is the nightmarish privilege of those simultaneously elected to both narrator and audience. The parade, burning and salutary, has ended before we saw it coming, both too little, too late, and too much, too soon. The human legacy, exposed and throttle stuck, falling straight down, but soon scrambling straight up, rarely sitting within the doorframe, non-judgmental and thin, wandering through the field of innocence and smirking in biological gratitude. All of this is bewaved and baptized, still an ordinary experience, predictably common, infinitely repetitive, sea storms to a fish or rot to the trees, lava to a sky or silence to the dead, the appearance of surprise, the new you tightly treading in the milk of the dream of 4 feet dancing, night spun and unbreakable, also swelling from sales marketing retention and the curse of contemporary vocabulary. There's a serenity of victory, scalloped and translucent, in accepting that it is not that it is or was good, not to mention best, but that you alone managed to create it. You alone went cascading through it. You alone correctly schemed, resourced, bulldozed, and survived it. The defiant are only able to be documented through the lens of wants and standards. And alike, you defy documentation with the same pace as the mountain's spring river, the same radiance as our eclipsed sun's patience, the same theatrics as the hog-nose's molt. Not ever wanting to inhabit the role, flaccid and hamstrung, of involuntary accomplice, to marionette upstream for injustices downstream, the audience, the narrator, the docent, and the predator shake hands and agree to play house, count the cash, and bounce anyone greedy enough to challenge such a coalition, grit-jawed and watertight at the summit of its faculties. And we, shy and impoverished, if momentarily crumbling into the dank pretense of fetish and glory, of coliseum and dining hall, can even whisper the perversions of the emotional pulleys, then we can certainly speak a new species into the cabin air, metal-sheathed and clever, a declaration of best wishes. To have made it, unmangled and punching, to the final course. To have arrived and earned it, to sit, to pick up the spoon, to pause, to become what is eaten. The myth of the transition is happening. This is the table. And so we devour, beautiful and smooth, the wind-flavored ice cream.